Hey Axis and Allies players, this is Good Captain, and I'm going to do my post G3 commentary. I'm also going to kind of start with my post Italian Turn 2 commentary because I didn't insert a video. That was on purpose. I just didn't feel like I had much to say at the time, and I'm glad I didn't because a lot happened in America's turn and then in Germany's turn 3. So the first thing I'm going to cover is the economy. At the end of round 2, this is the situation. The Allies combined have a total of 86 IPCs, and the Axis combined have a total of 90. So I accomplished my mission. Actually, it seems at first that I exceeded accomplishing my personal mission of balancing the economy, in that I have more than the Allies, but that's only because of this weird freak accident over here in Karelia, where my German infantry knocked out 2 of the Russians and retained the territory. If that hadn't gone my way, then it would be 88 to 88. Still balanced, but, just so. Okay, I am surprised at the end of round 2 to have had both the British hit Norway and the Americans hit Algeria. This is Operation Jupiter in historical context, and Operation Torch, going off simultaneously like that. We're German 3, we counterattacked and took it back, sure, but it resulted in an exchange of 2 infantries for 2 infantries, and in a balanced economy, that's nothing resolved, right? We both collected from it, we both lost 2 infantries, nothing's resolved, but yeah, they collected off of it. I didn't think that would happen. For some reason, I thought there would be one more turn before the Brits came in and then they would just come in super hard. So that shows a willingness on my opponent's part to just get in my just get after me. But Piloto was saying something about needing to start putting the pressure on, so maybe they're thinking that that's why they need to start now rather than later. Piloto also did a very aggressive first turn with Operation Torch, or second turn I should say. This I'm surprised he did because I sort of set this thing up to give me the option of crushing him. I can bring in my fighter, 2 offshores, a tank, and an infantry from the north off my transport, and an infantry and an arty over here. An arty is always an offensive unit, so these can sometimes tell you where what your opponent's thinking. They don't do anything. They're no use defensively, right? They're always an offensive unit. So I positioned that there specifically in case he did this. I thought I dead zoned it enough that it might delay him a turn or send him up north or whatever, but he didn't. So he's here. I do have the option of destroying him, but that comes with risks, and actually I shouldn't even comment because the British can actually reinforce this. So I'm just gonna stop talking about that for right now. I'm not gonna project too much. Let's talk about Germany. Germany on the Eastern Front is doing. This is my classic move that I developed in Axis and Allies Classic, and I call it the waltz. When you are the Germans and you're fighting a superior Russian army, sometimes it is best to consolidate your forces in a strategic position that can influence multiple areas of the board. And East Poland, for me, is that position this turn. We don't have enough. We have 10 tanks and the Russians have 7, and they're about to go again, so this balance could shift again. They have more infantry than we do, a great many more, and the demands on Germany are threefold. We have the British in the north, the Americans in the west and south now, and France. France must be protected. Italy must be protected. The north must be protected. We kind of made an investment in the beginning of the game with this aircraft carrier to do so, so that takes a commitment. I think it's worth it, but it's a commitment, and so the East Front is not prioritized. It's really just sort of designed to hold what we can here, and not like our objective is to not get snuffed, not lose this army, right? The army of the Eastern Front. We don't want to lose that. We want to preserve it and keep it as a bug light for the Russians to worry about. But the Russian player is now becoming the biggest and most threatening, and it probably will be for the rest of this turn, maybe even into the next, until the Japanese can get through China and come in through the back door and pay the industrial complex tax in India, in the East Indies, and in Manchuria. We'll need 3 at least to get this thing up and running properly. Then Russia is very menacing at this point. Because they can come into the middle of the board here, or into China, or into the back end, although I doubt that. Or they could really just double, triple down and focus and try to do some hideous damage to the Germans over here. So there's a lot of options being the Russian player, and it just remains to be seen what my opponent does. I won't say anything about Japan right now, but anyway, I don't know how interesting that was, but that's the way my mind works. I'm going to be just looking for opportunities to do damage to enemy armies. I'm preserving my own armies, and I've got a few more sustainable, attainable IPCs to gain as the Japanese player in at least New Guinea and potentially New Zealand as well, and if I'm feeling really aggressive, all three, Hawaii, New Zealand, and New Guinea. But again, this depends heavily on what happens with the Russian player. Will the Russians move in to reinforce Qinghai? What will the Russians do with this army up here? Will they swing down and hit India, or set up a blocker in Persia, or what's going to happen? That all will dictate what Japan does. I don't have an overarching strategy. I just try to react to what's going on, and I always keep the economy in mind. Thanks for watching this. All the best, and bye-bye.